channel, and welcome back to another episode of Out of Sight, Out of Mind. If you're new here, welcome. I'm your host, Nikita, and Out of Sight, Out of Mind is a self-titled series where I talk about missing minorities from all backgrounds. In this episode, we're going to be talking about what really happened to Phoenix Colden. So let's get into it. Phoenix Colden was born on May 23rd in the year 1988. Her mother's name is Godia Colden and her father's name is Lawrence Colden. Now, Phoenix had a very strict upbringing. Her parents are religious, so God and the church were a big factor in her life. And her mother actually homeschooled her from grade 6 up until she graduated high school. So she never got the chance to experience things like homecoming, field trips, football games, basketball games, and even prom. But Phoenix did have a best friend, and her name is Akira. They lived in the same neighborhood, which is how they formed this relationship at this time because Phoenix didn't attend an actual school. Phoenix's parents were so strict that Akira states Phoenix wasn't even allowed to leave her front porch to talk to anyone. If Akira and Phoenix wanted to hang out, Akira would often have to sit on her front porch to do so. When described, from her parents to her pastor and even her fencing instructor, they all described Phoenix as being a kind-hearted person. They said she was always pleasant and had a happy spirit, and her mother said she had a great sense of humor. Phoenix also took her education very seriously because her mother instilled that in her at a young age. Godia stated that when it came down to education, Phoenix was always ready to learn. Now, Phoenix did attend an actual college. In 2007, she went to the University of Missouri, St. Louis, and she even got to live on campus up until May 2011 in her junior year when she moved back home. So let's get into the day that Phoenix Colden disappeared and everything leading up to that point. December 18th, 2011. This day was actually a Sunday, and Phoenix was on the choir at her church that her and her mother were going to that Sunday morning. Her parents were having car trouble, so Phoenix had to be their source of transportation for them to get to point A to point B. After church, Phoenix and her mom went to the store, and they immediately came back home around 2 p.m. Now, an hour later, Phoenix's dad, Lawrence, recalls that Phoenix actually rushed right past him to leave the house, and she looked like she was in a hurry. She didn't even acknowledge her father. She didn't tell her father where she was going. She didn't even say, "I'll see you later" or "goodbye." Around 3 p.m. on December 18th, Phoenix drove off, and that would actually be the last time, although no one knew it, that Phoenix Colden would ever be seen again. The next morning, on December 19th, the Coldens came to realize their daughter never came back home, which they say is out of her character. Godia says that she wasn't the type to leave and not let anyone know of her whereabouts, and she definitely wasn't the type of girl to stay out all night long. So being the concerned parents that the Coldens are, they called the police to report their daughter missing. But when the St. Louis County Police found out that Phoenix was actually 23 years old at the time of her disappearance, the police actually told them that Phoenix had the right to disappear and not let her parents know because she was grown. And let me tell y'all, Godia, Phoenix's mom, was not having that. She told the police, and I quote, "I don't know what wolves raise you, but that's not how we do things here," end quote. That's not how the Coldens raised Phoenix. And Godia just had that mother's intuition that something wasn't right. But besides Phoenix's age, the police took their sweet time trying to find her because, as we know, when people of color go missing, it's not a priority to the police. With that being said, Godia took matters into her own hands to find her daughter. In the time span of the first 2 weeks that Phoenix has disappeared, Godia is handing out missing person flyers to every person that she sees. She's calling all the nearest hospitals to see if Phoenix showed up there. She was doing everything she possibly could to find her daughter. And get this. Like I said, right now we are in the time span of 2 weeks. Phoenix Colden has been missing for 2 weeks now. The St. Louis police called the Coldens and told them that they actually found Phoenix's car, abandoned, but Phoenix was nowhere to be found. Her car was found in a really bad neighborhood on the east side of St. Louis. And Godia says that this neighborhood is actually known for high crime rates and drugs. Although this information was told to the Coldens in the first 2 weeks of Phoenix being missing, it had later been brought to their attention that the police actually found Phoenix's car the same day she went missing, just 2 hours after she left the house. And the police are just now bringing this up 2 weeks later. As we can tell, Phoenix's disappearance wasn't taken as seriously as it should have been around this time in 2011. So let's flash forward to 2018. Phoenix Colden has been missing for almost 7 years, and her case caught the attention of a St. Louis deputy police chief named Joe Dilla. And Joe was doing big things in his career. He worked on so many homicide and missing persons cases. In fact, in 1999, he worked with the FBI to bring down one of the biggest prostitution rings to ever exist around that time. And alongside Phoenix's case, he worked with a black journalist. Her name is Chandrea Thomas. With Chandrea knowing that Phoenix was a black girl missing, she was determined to bring as much light to her case as possible. Thomas quoted, "I knew I had to fight to get her story on the air. It's up to us as journalists to bring up people of color in the news meetings and explain why it's so important for us to cover these stories." End quote. In 2018, the network Oxygen gave Phoenix's disappearance a 2-part segment, starring Chandrea and Joe doing more work to find her than the police ever would. When Phoenix's case was opened again, a lot of things that people didn't know about her, not even her parents, had to come to light. Now, of course, she had the right to keep private things private in her life. But with her being missing, a lot of these things that were done in the dark needed to be brought to the light in order to put the pieces together to find her. So let's get into some of those things that were found out that not a lot of people knew. I'm going to introduce another friend of Phoenix's, and his name is Tim Baker. He lived in the same neighborhood with Phoenix and Akira as well. Now, when Tim Baker was being interviewed by Chandrea and Joe, he told them that Phoenix had been lying about going to school for her fall semester in 2011. She was supposed to be going to classes and living on campus, but she wasn't. Baker revealed that around this time, Phoenix was living with her boyfriend. Her boyfriend that her strict parents knew nothing about. Now, because her upbringing was so strict, she probably just wanted to keep her relationship to herself. But Phoenix was actually on her parents' phone plan. And yes, even though she was in college, they kept record of who she was talking to. They were that strict. But Baker revealed that Phoenix had 2 phones around the time before she disappeared. And her best friend Akira knew about these 2 phones as well. One phone was on a family plan with her parents, of course. And the other phone was so she could talk to her secret boyfriend. Later on down the line of Chandrea and Joe working with the Coldens, they actually found out about the secret phone. And they actually found out about the secret boyfriend as well. So, when the Coldens found out about the secret boyfriend, they realized that she hid him pretty well. Now, when I was doing research on this case, it said that around this time, Phoenix was living in an apartment. And we know because Baker confirmed that as well. I don't know if this was an on-campus or off-campus apartment, but we know that it's owned by the college. The Coldens would visit their daughter often, and Godia said that whenever she would visit her daughter, she would check everywhere in her house. But she never saw anything in plain sight that looked like a man was living there. No cologne, no men's shoes, no men's clothes. But Godia said that she never checked Phoenix's drawers. So if Phoenix and her boyfriend were living in this apartment together, his clothes might have been in the drawers. And that's how she was able to get away with this. So, when the Coldens were looking at Phoenix's phone records, they actually saw that her boyfriend was the last person that she ever talked to before she went missing. In fact, they had an hour and 16-minute conversation. So when the Coldens met this boyfriend, one, Godia automatically didn't approve of him. And she says that's might be why Phoenix never brought up the fact that she was in a relationship, because she knew her parents wouldn't approve. When the Coldens asked the boyfriend about that hour and 16-minute conversation that they had, He states that he doesn't remember what they talked about. Now, to me, that comment alone makes him sound really suspicious. I can see if y'all talk for 5 minutes. But an hour and 16-minute conversation with your girlfriend at that, you have to remember something. And of course, with this comment, especially Phoenix's dad, he became really suspicious of her boyfriend. Still to this day, the Coldens believe that the boyfriend either caused Phoenix to disappear or he knows where Phoenix is but just doesn't want to tell them. So remember, earlier I said that in May 2011, Phoenix moved back home from school. Now, this is because the housing that Phoenix was staying in, her parents couldn't afford it anymore. Where the Coldens were living wasn't far away from the school at all. So her mother basically told her, we can't afford this place anymore. You've been going to school from home your whole life. You might as well just come back and finish. We live right here. But number one, her parents didn't know that she wasn't even enrolled that semester. And two, even if she was, Phoenix probably felt really upset that she had to move back home. She was home majority of her school career, and she was finally getting a chance to experience freedom, real life fun adult things. And now she had to be back under her strict parents' roof again. When Akira, Phoenix's best friend, was questioned about her behavior leading up to her disappearance, even she stated that moving back in with her parents really affected Phoenix emotionally. Akira said that Phoenix's demeanor was sad. She seemed sadder than usual, more irritated than usual, and Phoenix revealed to Akira that her and her parents argued a lot more when she moved back in. Just to give you an idea of her mental state prior to her disappearing. Another thing that Akira mentions is that Phoenix was really paranoid before she disappeared. Akira states that Phoenix would often think that someone was either watching her or coming after her. With Akira being Phoenix's best friend, although she really didn't know everything that was going on with Phoenix at the time, with what she did know, she helped bring a lot of hidden information about Phoenix come to light, to help people get a better understanding of what was happening in her life before she disappeared. Another piece of information that Akira revealed was that Phoenix just didn't have 2 phones. She had 2 boyfriends as well. So, the boyfriend I was talking about earlier, the one that her parents didn't approve of, his name is Mike B. Akira stated to Chandrea and Joe that Phoenix would often tell her she wanted to end her relationship with Mike B. And it was actually something that Phoenix talked about a lot, but she just didn't know how to break the news to him. So with that, she started to mess around with other guys until she met this one guy that stuck out to her. And his name is Mike as well. Now, this particular Mike, Phoenix met him at a cell phone store. And he was actually the one to give her that secret phone that I talked about earlier. Cell phone Mike, as we're going to call him, would hook up Phoenix with discounts. So she would use that phone to talk to him and use the other phone to talk to her main boyfriend, Mike B, and her parents. When Chandrea and Joe found this out, Joe actually got in contact with a private investigator named Dean to find out more info on cell phone Mike. And that he did. The private investigator found out that cell phone Mike actually had a restraining order against him for acts of domestic violence against an ex-girlfriend of his. Now, when this came to light, Chandrea and Joe actually ended up meeting with this particular ex. And I'm going to play the video on everything that went down. Now, one of the last things that was brought to light about Phoenix Colden is that Phoenix actually had 2 birth certificates with 2 different last names on them. I know, the number 2 is coming up a lot. We know that Phoenix, before she disappeared, had 2 different phones, had 2 different boyfriends, and now we're finding out that she had 2 different last names. Just listen. Now, one of the birth certificates obviously had the name Phoenix Colden, but the other one had the name Phoenix Reeves on it. In 2012, the Coldens hired their own private investigator to help them look for their daughter. With the Coldens' permission, Chandrea and Joe actually got in contact with him, And he was the one to disclose the information about the two different birth certificates. So the reason why the Phoenix Reeves certificate exists is because Goldia's maiden name is actually Goldia Reeves. Once Goldia and Lawrence got married, Goldia took Lawrence's last name, which is Colden. She kept the Phoenix Reeves certificate and then just got another certificate with the name Phoenix Colden on it. But the private investigator also states that Phoenix had no idea about her having two different birth certificates up until the months leading up to her disappearance. The private investigator disclosed that Goldia told him that Phoenix was actually taking money from a safe in the Colden's house. Now, some of this money did belong to Phoenix, but not all of it did. Some of the money that Phoenix took actually belonged to her mother, Goldia. Where the money was actually where the second birth certificate was, with Phoenix Reeves on it. And that's how Phoenix found out. When Chandrea and Joe found this out, they thought that maybe Phoenix used her having two birth certificates to her advantage. And maybe that they were looking for a Phoenix Reeves and not a Phoenix Colden. So once again, Joe called Dean, the private investigator that he called to get more info on cell phone Mike, to see if he could give him info on a Phoenix Reeves. And there was a lot of information to be found. Now, Dean was able to find 4 people with the name Phoenix Reeves, but one of them in particular stood out. Now, this Phoenix Reeves that was found in the system, it was just a Phoenix Reeves. There was no date of birth, no social security number. It was just the Phoenix Reeves and the address. Now, this address was in Anchorage, Alaska. Now, I don't know about y'all, but I barely hear anything that goes on in Alaska. So, let me just say this. And this is a theory that we're going to get into in a few minutes. Let's say that Phoenix wanted to leave on her own. She would want to go somewhere where no one would recognize her and she wouldn't recognize anybody. Alaska sounds like a pretty good choice because, like I said, and y'all let me know if y'all do, but I don't really hear anything about Alaska going on in the media. So, back to this Phoenix Reeves. When Dean found this particular Phoenix Reeves, he noticed that she just popped up in the system out of nowhere. Before January 2012, and mind you, Phoenix Colden went missing in December 2011. January 2012, this particular Phoenix Reeves pops up in the system. And sometime in June 2012, this Phoenix Reeves just vanishes in the system. So, immediately after finding this out, Joe and Dean actually go out to Alaska. They're determined to see if Phoenix Colden or Phoenix Reeves is there. But unfortunately, Phoenix wasn't found. They went around the neighborhood with this particular address, and they showed everyone in the neighborhood Phoenix's picture, and no one knew who she was. They even went to the actual address that was listed with the name Phoenix Reeves. But the owner of the house stated that she's been living in the house since the year 2002, and no one by the name of Phoenix Colden or Reeves has ever stayed there with her. So sadly, Anchorage, Alaska was a dead end in finding Phoenix Colden. Now, with all that being said, let's get into some possible theories into what might have happened to Phoenix Colden on December 18th, 2011, after she walked out her front door. The first theory is that Phoenix was possibly a victim of trafficking. I can't say the whole word on YouTube because I said in my first video, YouTube has a lot of guidelines and a lot of things I can't really say. So I hope you all know what type of trafficking I mean. Now, this theory came about when her car was first found. The location. I said that earlier. The neighborhood was known for drugs and high crime. But across the street from this neighborhood is Highway Interstate 70. Now, this highway, especially around the time that Phoenix disappeared, and still to this day, especially when the panoramic, that's another word that I can't say on YouTube, especially when the panoramic caused us to go into lockdown, this highway was a known hotspot where people involved in this particular lifestyle would recruit people because this highway is so busy. When the police found the car, the policeman who found it actually said that he didn't notice anything odd about the car. He just thought that it ran out of gas. So is it possible that this car really did run out of gas? And Phoenix, she got out her car to look for the nearest gas station. And someone could have came up behind her, snatched her up, and drove away on that highway. Or Phoenix could have possibly been lured into trafficking. Remember, she left the house in a hurry that day. Maybe she was meeting up with someone that she knew and that she trusted. What if Phoenix really planned on coming back home that day? But if she was meeting up with someone, they had different plans for her. Now, theory number 2 is that one of the Mikes, either Mike B or cell phone Mike, could have possibly done something to her. Now, 2 things to know about Mike B. Remember, he was the last person on record to speak to Phoenix before she disappeared. Her best friend said that Phoenix often talked about, she wanted to end things, but she didn't know how. Now, is it possible that when Phoenix left the house, she was going to meet up with Mike B to tell him it was over, and he got so upset that he harmed Phoenix? And with cell phone Mike, we know for a fact that he has a violent past. His ex said that he was physically and emotionally abusive. Is it a possibility that Phoenix was meeting up with cell phone Mike and she said or did something that pushed him over the edge and he was the one to harm Phoenix? And by the way, neither one of the Mikes did anything to help look for Phoenix, which I think is weird. If your significant other vanishes, and even if, she was with one and not the other, wouldn't you be concerned? Wouldn't you be alongside with her parents looking for her? Now, the third and final theory, the one that I mentioned earlier. What if Phoenix Colden doesn't want to be found? What if when she left the house, she had intentions on not coming back that day? Think about it. Think about everything that was going on in her life at the time. Phoenix wasn't in the best place mentally. Her own best friend said that, she seemed more irritated and she was sad. She dropped out of school. She was forced to come back home in a strict environment. Even though she was 23 years old, she couldn't do much because of her strict parents. She was juggling 2 boyfriends, and one she didn't even want to be with anymore. She had a lot on her plate. A month before Phoenix disappeared, she recorded a video of herself, just venting about everything going on in her life and how she was feeling. In the video, she said things like, I just want to start over, start the new me over. I really want people to take me seriously, but people don't care. She was even praying to God, asking him to help her accept things she know won't change and help her with things she knows she can change. What if Phoenix either left everything behind, even her 2 boyfriends, to start her life over like she said in the video? Or is it possible that, before she disappeared, she broke it off with cell phone Mike? She broke it off with Mike B. Sorry, I was getting confused. Is it possible that before she disappeared, she broke it off with Mike B and her and cell phone Mike left to start a whole new life together? Phoenix sounds like she was just misunderstood. She wanted people to see her one way, and everyone had a different perception of who the real Phoenix was. But what if Phoenix didn't even know who the real Phoenix was? If Phoenix Colden or Phoenix Reeves is alive today, I pray that she's still alive. I pray that she's alive and well. And if the third theory is really true, and she really did leave it all behind, I hope that her new life is treating her well. So that's actually the end of the second episode of Out of Sight, Out of Mind. Please let me know in the comments what you all think about this case. Let me know what theory you all believe the most. Comment down below any cases you all want me to do next. If you like this video, also please like, comment, subscribe. Share this video with everyone you know, and I will see you all in the next episode. Bye.